Hey guys, Omar with Overlanding Just Cause. This is my second video on my Land Cruiser Bruiser. Just kidding. My Jeep Commander. And in this video, I want to talk about how I installed my rocker switch. Before we talk about how I installed it, I want to say this is actually the second one that I had to get. My first one, I was a little too rough with it and actually broke the switch. And there's other videos on YouTube of people breaking it, being a little too rough. So with that said, you're buying it from Amazon, they're a little cheaper, be careful. So far, I haven't broken this one. So, first thing you need to decide when installing is where you want it. Now, I decided to put it right here in the rear of the vehicle. If you notice, these are vents that the Jeep has. I took a razor blade, cut the vents out, and now it sits flush. I decided to put it here because in this area right here, I'm gonna have a Pelican case with all my kitchen stuff. And I wanted it close to the rear of the vehicle so that, you know, at night, I don't have to fumble around. I know where the switches are. These switches are gonna be connecting light to my awning, my tailgate back here, and my zero declination shower or toilet thing. Now, the second thing you need to know is how much wire you're going to use. In my case here, I'm connecting it to my second battery, which is a couple feet away. My wire is going to run through the vents, underneath the platform, to the front of the platform, into the battery itself. Now, I'm using 14 gauge wire. The further away you are to that battery source, the thicker the wire needs to be, or the smaller the gauge. It's weird how that works. Something I learned along the way. So in this case, I have 14 gauge wire, not very thick wire, because I don't have to go too far. Now, before we talk about prepping up the wire, let's talk about if you don't have a second battery so close. Now, if you don't have a dual battery, that's fine. You can run your rocker switch to your starter battery. If that's going to be the case, you have two options. You can either run the wire underneath the chassis of the vehicle and then go up through the engine bay into the battery, or you can go inside the vehicle, hide the wire along the way, and go through the firewall to the battery. In my case, when I ran my wire from my starter battery to my second battery back here, I used a 2 gauge wire, which is a thick wire, probably the size of my thumb, and I ended up going through the firewall, drilling a hole, which is kind of scary, and coming in through the siding of the Jeep. So let's show how I prepped up the wire. I'm going to take my ring and I'm going to kind of measure how much I need to cut. I don't want to cut too much off, so if you notice that ring stops about right here, right? The rest of it is heat shrink. So I'm going to cut about this much off. I'm going to take my wire cutters. If you notice, you can't probably see it from the and maybe you can from the focus, but these are numbers. They're number for the gauge. This is 14 gauge wire, so I'm going to find 14. I'm going to cut all the way around, pull it off. So now I have my actual wire showing. I'm going to take my heat shrink. Don't forget the heat shrink first. Get it in there. If you notice, I'm turning the wire to kind of tighten it up. I'm going to put my ring connector in there. If you notice, I don't know if you can notice, there's a little bit of copper showing, but that's all right because this heat shrink piece is going to cover that up. Then I'm going to take my crimpers, crimp it down nice and tight. If you don't have crimpers, then use pliers. Heat shrink, and then heat shrink cover. I like to cover a little bit of the actual ring and then shrink it down. You could use a heat gun, you could use a blowtorch, you can use a regular lighter, but when you're done, it should look like this. So you notice this is a smaller ring and my heat shrink is a lot smaller. I cut it in half. So for the other side of that wire, you're going to, same thing, expose the wire, make it nice and tight. you're going to take these wire connectors, right? In this case, this one has the solder in the center. You could get these on Amazon. Slide one in, take the other side, put it in, and then start heating it up. The solder will melt, giving it a good connection. The heat shrink will shrink and make it nice and tight to the point where it won't come off. So again, this side is the one going to the power source, and this would be the wire that is from the rocker switch, the main wire coming out, which is this one, right? In this case, this rocker switch was broke. I actually broke it. If you notice here, one of the connections came off, so I had to order a new one. So this cord right here, the main cord from the rocker switch, is this coming out, so I would connect the two, right? And then again, the other side is going to the battery. Once I'm done, I'll do the exact same thing with the negative wire. I'll have one ring going to the battery, the other side expose the wire, negative wire coming off the rocker switch, and same thing, I would take a wire connector, this piece, connect, shrink, and I'm ready to connect it to the battery. Hey guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. It was simple, it was easy, it was fun. So if you guys have any questions, leave them below in the comments, and I'll answer them. And the next video should be on me installing the lights. She's getting big. 11 weeks now. Later, guys.